Welcome into Boston Celtics Today by Chat Sports. I am Chase Sr. Celtics lost Game 1 to the Nets by 11 points. They lose Game 2 by an even greater margin, a 22-point defeat at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Let's break it all down for you. Joe Harris got off to a red-hot start for the Brooklyn Nets, and from that point forward, it wasn't even a game. Kevin Durant, 26 points for Brooklyn to go along with 8 rebounds and 5 assists. Joe Harris, 16 first-quarter points. He ended up with 25 points in the game. James Harden dropped 20 points himself. On the Celtics side of things, Marcus Smart was pretty solid, but it didn't matter. 19 points, 6 assists. He went 5 of 8 from deep. Kemba Walker was good too, 17 points, 3 rebounds, and 7 assists. Jayson Tatum did leave this game early in the third quarter because he got poked in the eye. Not a severe or serious injury. His status moving forward, he's probably going to be on the court for Game 3. It was more of a precautionary reason to take him out of the game because this game was already a blowout. Let's take a look at what some Brooklyn Nets players did. Kevin Durant was really good, and as always, he was very, very efficient. 26 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. He went 8 of 12 from the floor. And as we've seen throughout his entire career, Kevin Durant has always been one of the most efficient players. He was once again efficient in Game 2, just like he was in Game 1. But the big story for the Brooklyn Nets, it's the guy who a lot of people don't talk about enough. Joe Harris. All of the focus on KD, Kyrie, James Harden. But this is a legitimate fourth star for this Brooklyn Nets team, and you saw tonight why that's the case. 16 points in the opening frame, 25 points in the first half, and that's what he ends up with in this one. That's why this Nets offense is so explosive. 9 of 14 from the floor for Joe Harris, and a sizzling 7 of 10 from long range. Grade the Celtics' performance for me against Brooklyn here in Game 2. A, B, C, D, or F. Get your votes in the comment section below. For me, it's a D. Celtics weren't good. They weren't good in Game 1, especially late. They weren't good in Game 2, right from the tip. And a big reason for that was Jayson Tatum. Look, I don't want to just go all in on Jayson Tatum and criticize him too much. He has to be a little bit better. He just wasn't assertive enough for me tonight. 21 minutes, 9 points, 4 rebounds, 3 of 12 from the floor. Yes, he got poked in the eye in the third quarter. That's why he left this game early. But Jayson Tatum, for the Celtics to have any hope of lasting long in this series, maybe even winning a game or two, Jayson Tatum has to do what we saw Jayson Tatum do a lot of times this year. That's chuck up 25, 30 shots a game. I know that's a lot to ask for, but that's the role that Jayson Tatum has to take on. And on the play that he got injured, slightly poked in the eye, he was able to walk away from it, then fell to the floor. He was helped off of the floor, but the Celtics at that point were down big, and he was ruled out for the rest of the fourth quarter. His status for Game 3 right now is unknown, but I think Jayson Tatum is going to be able to play. There was a shot of him on the bench. He was just kind of covering his eye a little bit, but the Celtics were getting blown out. So why would Brad Stevens even want to put him back on the floor and risk him getting injured further when he's really the only chance, the only hope you have of maybe stealing a game or two in this series? Now, the bright spot in addition to Jayson Tatum tonight was Marcus Smart. It was also Kemba Walker. Marcus Smart, he's going to be on some nights, and he's going to be bad other nights. Tonight was one of the good nights. 19 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals. Marcus Smart is always going to give you that bulldog mentality. He's going to bring you toughness. He's going to be really good defensively as well. And tonight, he was good offensively, but the Nets really just boat raced the Celtics right from the opening tip. It wasn't even a competition after that. As for Kemba Walker, he's also going to help Jayson Tatum out a lot as we progress in this series. 17 points, 3 rebounds, and 7 dimes for him tonight. I think you're just looking at a series right now where Jayson Tatum is going to have to go off. And other than that, you're looking at guys like Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart, who are really going to have to shoulder a lot of the load and just have career performances for the Celtics to have any opportunity of even competing with the Brooklyn Nets. Because you've seen in Game 1 and in Game 2, this Nets team, they are just so explosive. And they've only played 8 games together leading into the playoffs. That trio of Harden, Kyrie, and Durant. But they look really, really dangerous right now. This series obviously going to shift to TD Garden in Boston for Game 3. and the Celtics are going to have to bring it. There is no doubt about that. Jayson Tatum definitely has to chuck up more shots and has to be more assertive. Hopefully that poked eye is not a big deal at all. So predict it for me. Who you got in Game 3? The first 2 games for Celtics fans hasn't been pleasant at all. Type BOS for the Boston Celtics. Type BKN for the Brooklyn Nets. Be sure to get your predictions in the comment section. We'll preview Game 3 coming up, but for now, make sure you subscribe to Celtics Today by Chat Sports because we're going to continue to cover the Celtics all throughout the playoffs as long as they are alive, and all throughout the offseason. It's going to be a busy one for the Boston Celtics, so we have you covered here on Celtics Today by Chat Sports. Be sure to either hit that big red button down below or go to youtube.com/CelticsTV for the best Celtics coverage here on YouTube. Celtics in a 2-0 hole to the Brooklyn Nets as this series shifts to Boston to TD Garden for Game 3. Celtics lost Game 1 by 11 points. They lost Game 2 by 28 points, or 22 points rather, and it's just not good right now for the Boston Celtics. And we knew that it was going to be a tough go without Jaylen Brown, who is out for the year because of that wrist injury. It's one of the best two-way players across the entire NBA. And in Game 1, at least the Celtics were able to keep it close for a little while. They lost 104-93. Jayson Tatum was solid. But that's what I'm kind of looking at here in the first 2 games, is Jayson Tatum just hasn't been good enough. And I understand it's hard to pile on to him because he's playing with a very depleted team right now. But I'm looking at Jayson Tatum and saying, dude, I mean, you have to average 30-plus points for us to have a chance. I know that is a tough position to be in, but that's the reality of it when you're going up against an explosive offense like the Brooklyn Nets have. So who needs to step up in Game 3 in addition to Jayson Tatum? Let me know a player who you think needs to step up in Game 3 as this series will now shift to TD Garden and the Celtics will be able to finally host a game because their games on the road in the first 2 games of the series haven't been good. Be sure to get your votes in the comment section down below. Let's talk about the keys for the game for the Celtics to be victorious in Game 3. Jayson Tatum needs to go off. He's been just okay in Games 1 and 2. The Game 2 defeat, it was cut short because he got poked in the eye. He left early in that third quarter. But Game 1 wasn't assertive enough for me. Game 2, his night was cut short, but in his minutes on the floor, I thought Jayson Tatum could have been a little bit more aggressive. Now, it's of course a very tall task when you're being defended by guys like Kevin Durant, and you're having to just play catch-up right from the get-go, right from the tip, because Joe Harris goes off for 16 points in that first quarter, 25 points in the first half, and really right from the beginning of this game, the Celtics were just trying to be in comeback mode, which brings me to my next point. If you're a Celtics fan, you're just hoping that in Game 3, the Nets just go ice cold, because in Game 1, it was kind of a variety of guys who were going off against the Celtics, and the Celtics defense all season long has been somewhat lackluster. In Game 2, it's not Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie who go off. It's Joe Harris, but still, this dynamic tandem, this trio, right here, they're still really good. And Boston doesn't have the defensive prowess to be able to limit or keep up with these guys. KD in Game 2, 26 points. James Harden, 20 points. Kyrie, only 15 points, but was really effective in other areas with 6 rebounds and 6 assists. So if you're a Celtics fan, you're hoping, okay, let's just hope that KD, Harden, and Kyrie go ice cold. And, oh yeah, let's hope that Joe Harris isn't just raining threes down. Lastly, look at the box score for the Celtics in Game 2. There was no bench production at all outside of Robert Williams. Of course, with Jaylen Brown out of the lineup, this is a team whose depth has certainly been depleted, and with Jaylen Brown on the roster, they automatically become a deeper team. Doesn't matter, though. Guys have to step up off the bench because even the starters were just okay in Game 2. The bench guys, other than Robert Williams, they were non-existent. So the bench production is going to have to be much, much better. I wonder if Brad Stevens is going to maybe tinker with the rotation. Can he go with maybe different defensive schemes? I don't think he's going to trot out like a zone. Man-to-man, they've been getting cooked. I just think it's a product of the Nets just having way too good a personnel for the Boston Celtics right now. So do you think the Celtics going back home to Boston at TD Garden can tie this series. Certainly going to be a tall task, but I know Celtics fans have seen comebacks in the past, and you're always confident about your team. Type Y for yes, the Celtics can make a comeback and tie it. Type N for nah, I just don't see it happening.